think about my own grandchildren and stuff like this and how easy it is to fall prey and to trust these strangers that you're communicating with because they know exactly what to say. They know what to post and to tell you, to hook you to continue communicating with them. And I'll go back and tell parents, be involved in your child's life. Know what they are doing. Know who they're communicating with. And if you feel like it's invading their privacy, you're their parent. But for those of you who have that great relationship and you want to respect their privacy, you build that camaraderie with them, that friendship with them, and say, look, I am your parent. I love you and I'm here to guide you in rules, but I also need to take care of you.
We're excited for all of our listeners today to get superintendent insights. That's why we call this the Superintendent Spotlight, where we address real parent concerns nationwide. Now, I know parents, you're probably thinking, my family's unique. My kids are different. I get that. You're right. But remember, they all get this one device eventually they're begging for, and it's either an iPhone or an Android or maybe an iPad or anything else. Every kid becomes essentially online or addicted to these same apps, these same phones, these same devices. And so today we're going to answer many parent concerns and questions that parents in 50 states have asked us as we reach millions of people a year to keep students safe on social media so they can be successful in school and outside of school and someday shine online when they're ready to get a job, career, internship, and more. We're excited to do that. Superintendent, it is so great to have you here today.
Hello, I'm Stephen McCanless. I'm superintendent of the Cleveland Independent School District. We are just north of Houston here in Texas. We have an enrollment of 12,500, and that is spread over our 12 campuses.
We're so pumped to have a great superintendent here to walk us through this. Now, superintendent, I want to ask you a question that we get from a lot of parents, and it's about screen time. What are your tips that parents can do to better manage screen time at home?
I often ask, what did we do before we had screens? And screens are so vital for our students in their learning today. But some students, and yes, parents, your children, they can get too much screen time. It's important for you to talk with your children, talk with the students about the importance of screen time and how best to use it and utilize it. And most importantly, what is it they're doing during their screen time to make sure they're maximizing the use of that effectively?
Yeah, so well said. Another question we get, superintendent, is around age-specific access. Do you have any recommendations for parents on phone or social media access for students in perhaps elementary school, middle school, or high school?
I am absolutely amazed when I visit campuses and find out that some kindergarten students have a cell phone that their parents have provided to them. And I understand in today's world all about safety, parents want to know that they can communicate with their child no matter what age. But the screen time, the use of that device, and what you are doing, again, make sure you're using it effectively. And parents, be involved in your child's life. Know what they are looking at, know what they are researching, know what they are accessing. I don't care if they're a first grader or a 12th grader. It is okay for you as the parent to be involved and ask them, because after all, they're our children. I have my own children. We love them and we want to keep them safe. Technology is great, but it can also introduce a lot of harms into our lives.
Yeah, Superintendent, I love your approach. I think that's so good. You really hinted at having a rich dialogue with kids, which we recommend at Smart Social is the #1 safety app in the world, that dialogue. Nothing else is going to help your kid as much as that. I love that. Now, for all of our listeners here, parents ask us all over the country, what makes these apps so addictive? It's a really good question, and I think it's good to go back to the basics. So let's hear from real students as they explain why they can't stop scrolling.
I think the most addictive part about social media is the constant new content that you see. You're always being introduced to new content, especially on apps like TikTok. I think the short videos, when they end so quick, you start to lose your ability to have a longer attention span. I've caught myself finding long TikTok videos and I can't stand watching the whole thing.
This generation really adapted to the fact that we don't have a large attention span. We really only concentrate for 30 seconds. So getting information that quickly, I think, enables us to just want to keep watching more. You don't even even need to care about what they're presenting to you, but just the fact that you can sit there and watch it and you're oddly enjoying it. Social media is pretty addictive. People said it's like a drug. So it is addictive because you can't stop watching it. Your mind just plays on loop and it enjoys the fulfillment of everything firing in your brain to just keep watching.
And let's reiterate for all of our listeners what they just said. The students' perspective. These are really mature young women. They realize they can't stop scrolling. They said they have constant new content, short videos. They're trained to have a shorter attention span. Your mind is telling you not to stop watching. It's addictive and so on. Now, the next parent question that we get a lot is social media positive or negative for my child? Superintendent, before we get back to you, we've got one more video. Let's hear from a real student why they think video apps are so addictive.
Part of what makes social media so addictive is how the algorithms are based on using content to judge whether or not someone's worthy and using people's short attention spans to evaluate them as pieces of code, which also means that social media doesn't really care about your opinion, but really what keeps you on that platform longer, whether that's from likes, comments of engagement, sharing it to other people, or even just watching it through. The algorithm judges you as a piece of data and whether or not someone should be praised for being controversial or thrown away for not being exciting enough, even if they're pouring their heart and soul into the content. It is a heartless beast. When I spend too much time on social media, that can look like being happy because something really cool happened in my friend's life. They went hiking. A friend I saw snow for the first time a couple of days ago, and it can make me feel very happy and energized. But other times, it can just be really draining. It can be really negative. It depends who I'm following. It depends what's being posted.
Superintendent, I want your insight. We've really dove into two really interesting questions from parents, and we saw insights. What are your thoughts on this, and what would you tell parents and our listeners about why it's so important to have that rich dialogue with the kids about how addictive these devices are?
As I listened to them, it took me back to, most of us watch Netflix. And if you've ever binge watched, you watch one episode and it's like, I just need to watch one more. And then I'm going to watch one more and then one more. And before you know it, you've been sitting on the couch for 3 or 4 hours. And social media, it does the same thing, especially with the algorithms, like the young lady mentioned. So the items that pop up for you to view, they know what you like looking at, what you've clicked on in the past. And talk to your kids about that yes, it's there, and you'll find yourself 2 or 3 hours later. Look at the quality time you could have spent working on homework, family time outside with friends. And before you know it, you've spent 2 to 3 hours just looking at post after post on that social media site. And parents can help guide kids with that. Kids don't really understand the algorithm formula that's there for a reason, and it's there to catch them and capture their attention. But talk to them about the binge watching. I bet they can relate to that.
Yeah, so true. I call it zombie mode, Superintendent, and here's why. And all the parents listening right now, if your kid has YouTube or Netflix, there is a way to go into the back end of Netflix and turn off autoplay next episode. And there's also another hack that we do that we teach in February at Smart Social on our weekly live events. We teach how to turn off the preview audio and video. You know, Superintendent, how you go through it on your TV and it plays, and they're trained to get you addicted to the trailer to want to press play. You can also do that on YouTube, parents. You can go into the settings on YouTube and say, do not autoplay the next video. There's a few different little features. There's also a timer feature. And what I call that is turning off zombie mode. Zombie mode, Superintendent, is where we sit on the couch and we don't have to get up. It just plays the next thing. We don't even have to touch the button. So I love what you're saying, and I agree with it. For all of our viewers right now, I want to give a big shout out to our incredible educators that are using our program, our life-saving program nationwide. Remember, this is how we want principals to feel. This principal says we had over 50 social media incidents per year last year, Josh, before we started implementing your live events. Now we're down to 5 incidents, and I have more time to be a school principal again. Duran Wilson, Director of School Engagement, we love him. The 50 plus live events, he says, give our community a chance to join on their phone without software on a date and time that works with their schedule, and there's a replay. Superintendents like Tom Butler in California say we can't stay updated on all the latest apps, so we appreciate Smart Social keeping our 8,000 parents in the know. We have live events every single week. Gone are the days of me flying to your city as I used to do as one of the top social media safety speakers and having 20 to 30 parents show up. Now we have events in October, November, December. November was Disappearing Messages Month. Thank you to the hundreds of school districts that played all of our programs and sent it out to parents. December was optimizing or is optimizing parental controls without invading your students' privacy. January is how to shine online. February is avoiding strangers in dangerous situations. March is understanding social media and AI's impact on teens. And it goes on and on throughout the summer. Thank you to all of our partner districts, because this is what your parents are saying. I learned that when my teen shares something, the issue is likely larger than they first suggest. It's important to not over or underreact knowing this. These are real parents from real high schools. I found it very helpful to learn what is and is not considered cyberbullying, along with the types of cyberbullying messages. It was also great to hear about the markers to identify potential signs that my child might be struggling with cyberbullying. And last, I learned more about social media and my kids want to use, as well as helpful tips to understand my teen's communication with her friends. Thank you to everybody and the countless 300, just last month alone, 300 families filled out our feedback form, taught us exactly what they learned. Parents all over the country are engaging 10 times more than they used to at the districts. We want to thank everybody for doing that. Superintendent, I want to jump back into you and ask you a really big topic that parents are asking us. And it's an interesting one, and I want to get your insights on it as a superintendent, because a lot of districts nationwide are going cell phone free, and they're looking at how do we reduce the distractions in the classroom to maximize student learning, to maximize student socialization with each other, to build friendships. So what has been your district's approach or journey, or even just a discussion around where are you going to go cell phone free in the classroom?
Our district's approach has been to manage the cell phone use on the campuses from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. In our community, a lot of times you have to look at what the community wants for their children, for our students. And our parents in our community want our students, their children, to have the cell phones. But it doesn't mean it's going to be a free-for-all on the campuses. So as a district, we had to come together as a leadership team to see how best to manage those in the classroom. So there will be days when students are allowed to use them for research, interaction, looking up specific items that are subject specific. And there are other days that the cell phones are off limits. We do provide the cases hanging in the classrooms on the walls. It reminds me of a shoe rack. You can put your cell phone in it. And the younger grades, they actually have their names in them. And the kids think it's so cool to go up and put their phone in their name. That's my spot. And, you know, we haven't had a lot of issues with that. The students have not said, I'm not going to do this or give it up or turn it over, because they understand there are days you get to use them and there are days you cannot. So it has worked very well in our district. We communicate with parents on a regular basis. We haven't had any loss or theft in that process because they're out in the open. Everybody can see where they're hanging. And so far, it's working great. As our enrollment grows, we will address any issues that may come up. But so far, it's been working well for us.
That's terrific to hear, and so good. And I like how you're creating responsible behaviors with kids at a very young age. Superintendent, I've got one final question that people are asking us a lot. The topic is avoiding strangers in dangerous situations online. So important. What is your advice to parents and students to avoid talking to strangers and avoiding dangerous situations online?
I think about my own grandchildren and stuff like this and how easy it is to fall prey and to trust these strangers that you're communicating with, because they know exactly what to say. They know what to post and to tell you, to hook you, to continue communicating with them. And I'll go back and tell parents, be involved in your child's life. Know what they are doing. Know who they're communicating with. And if you feel like it's invading their privacy, you're their parent. But for those of you who have that great relationship and you want to respect their privacy, you build that camaraderie with them, that friendship with them, and say, look, I am your parent. You know, I love you and I'm here to guide you in rules, but I also need to take care of you. And just share with me who you've been talking to online. What's the communication like? And a lot of times our parents have shared with us because the younger students are unknowing to what is grooming. You know, grooming is out there and they'll try to hook them. And by sharing with their parents, the communication they've had, the parents, a light bulb turns on and it's like, wait a minute, those kinds of questions, they shouldn't be asking my child that. So it is so helpful. And it just takes a few minutes at home to ask. How was your day? Who you been talking to? Tell me about some of the conversation you had with that person. And it's led to some revealing conversations that some of our parents have shared with us.
Superintendent, what a great tip. What great advice. Once again, to all of our partner community organizations, thank you so much for showing our weekly live parent events and replays and bringing them into your community. We now are able to 10x parent involvement and parent engagement across 12 different languages. There's teens in every one of our programs. You've already seen 2 of those videos tonight. Thank you to our school districts that are helping us reach millions of students. And there's a premium parent newsletter that goes out to every parent that has all the dialogue starters and event updates and everything else. Thank you so much. Superintendent, it's been great to have you here today. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody else for watching. Just a gentle plug for my book. Remember, anything that you're doing online, your kids are watching, so remember to keep it light, bright, and polite. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Thanks so much for all the support. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.